Okay.
Welcome to weaving lesson number 3, Sumac. My students at school should have woven about this much basic, maybe 1.5 to 2 inches. I tell them to put their thumb under their loom and measure to the top of their thumb. However, I'm going to start sumac now so you can all see what it looks like. Sumac is made with a circle. If you don't make your circle first with your yarn, you won't get a correct stitch. We have 2 pieces of yarn in different colors than our first basic. Our first basic is all one color, and then our sumac is 2 other colors. I tied a knot in one end, but you don't have to do that to do sumac. It just makes it a little easier for the beginner. So the knotted end goes on the right, and the open end goes on the left. And we're going to use our left hand to put the end of our yarn under the first 2 strings a little bit so that it hangs down on the basic. We have our yarn in a circle going around up near the top of the loom. The circle is up high, and we're going to take our stitch down low with the knotted end of the yarn, and the stitch will go under the next set of 2 strings backwards. We're going to be weaving in that direction, so we're going to be making our stitch backwards in that direction. So it's always like this. So now I'll pull that knotted end, and you'll see the circle is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and it becomes my stitch. Let me do that again. One end of the yarn goes under the first 2 strings forward. That's the direction that we're going to be weaving in. The other end of the yarn, after I make my circle, lift my yarn up, goes under the next set of 2 backwards. Now we've completed the circle. We started it by going under 2 forward, we make our circle, and we go under 2 backwards, and we pull. And the circle continues to get smaller and smaller, and it becomes our first stitch. The strings do get pulled tightly together. That's not a problem. That's good. And we lift our yarn up, circle it around, and go under the next 2 backwards and pull. Lift your yarn up, circle around, go under 2 backwards, and pull. Once again, I'm using yarn that's 2 arms long. I measured from the tip of one hand to the tip of my other hand. Lifting up, go under 2 backwards, and pull. When I'm weaving to the right, my right hand is my weaving hand. My left hand is my helper hand. So my helper hand lifts the yarn up and lifts the strings up. My weaving hand puts the yarn under those strings and pulls. My helper hand lifts and lifts. My weaving hand goes under 2 backwards and pulls. My helper hand lifts and lifts. My weaving hand goes under 2 backwards and pulls. Lift and lift, go under 2 backwards and pull. Lift and lift, go under 2 backwards and pull. Now you can probably see that as I'm weaving, the stitches are beginning to look like dominoes that have all fallen down on one another. They're all going in the same direction, and they look like they just fell down on each other. Those are correct sumac stitches. As you're weaving, if you notice that your stitches are going in a different direction, you may have one that's going straight, or you may have one that's going the other way. If you notice that, then you need to take your stitches out and redo it, because you probably forgot to lift your yarn up. Now that we're at the end, we're going to lift up our last string. It could be 1, it could be 2, it really doesn't matter. You slip under the last 2. I call this the old slip and skip. Just slip under so that your yarn is under the last string or 2 strings. Then your circle is going to go counterclockwise now because we're weaving back the other way. And remember, in the first 2 lessons I told you that every row has to be opposite the row before it. So we're going to do an opposite circle now. And now, since we're weaving to the left, when we go under 2 backwards, we'll be going under 2 to the right. So now my left hand is my weaving hand, so I'll pick up the knot with my left hand. My right hand is my helper hand, so it will pick up the strings. I'm going to skip that first string, and I'm going to go under the next 2. So we slipped under, we come around counterclockwise, and we skip that first string and go under the next set of 2 backwards. So that's the old skip and slip and skip. Lift, lift, go under 2 backwards and pull. My right hand now lifts and lifts. My left hand goes under 2 backwards and pulls. Lift, lift, go under 2 backwards and pull. Now each stitch is going this way, across the board. Now, as you're watching me put these stitches in, you'll see that these stitches also look like dominoes that fell down on each other, but they're going in the opposite direction. They're making a V shape, like little birdie feet. If you don't have that look, then you need to take some stitches out and redo it, remembering to always lift that yarn up before you take your stitch. The yarn has to be up high, your stitch down low. Up high, down low. When you pull, your yarn will come down under your stitch. If you take a stitch and your yarn comes up above your stitch, you forgot to lift it. So in that case, take it out, lift it up, and do it again. Now we're at the end again and we have 2 left. So we're going to slip under those 2 and we're going to come around now clockwise and skip them. Slip and then come around and skip and go under the next set of 2 backwards, just like we did the first row. And you keep weaving this until you run out of yarn. And come back for our next weaving lesson, Sumac number 2, and I'll show you how to restart your sumac. See you later.